What cringy thing you did in the past still keeps you up at night? My first source of pee was Newgrounds with its hentai ads. It led me to this hentai comic called Bondage Fairies. I printed it out at school without knowing it was 200 pages long and how to cancel a print. Frick, the cringe destroys me even today. Dude, you gotta tell us the aftermath. Sent like 5 love confessions to a girl in high school over MySpace, then chickened out and deleted them. Turns out deleting stuff from the sent box doesn't unsend the message. Oh god. There was a brief time in middle school in which I would speak in the manner of Tony Scarface Montana. Shut the fuck up, you pile o' cockroaches, so embarrassing. Say hello to my 0 friends. I was invited to the birthday party of someone I'd only met a couple times, but we had a lot of mutual friends. I was sat in the lounge having a drink and the birthday guy came in, leant over me with his arms outstretched, so I hugged him. He was reaching for something behind me. AWW. When I got my period for the first time, I took it upon myself to warn all friends, some of whom I wasn't even very close with, via email that I might be moody because, you know, womanhood and all. Ugh. I was really sick one day in high school, and my mother thought I was faking it and still made me go. I sneezed so hard I crapped myself. It was everywhere. I called her to ask if she could pick me up from school or at least bring me a change of clothes. She still thought I was lying. Luckily my gym teacher found me a pair of pants, but I had to deal with my shame for the rest of the school year. I got made fun of a lot for that. I would have not talked to my mother for weeks. LOL. I was crawling across the floor of a store to go play with a girl on the other side of the store. Crawling because my mom said I couldn't go play, so I was very sneakily sneaking away. An old woman didn't see me and tripped over me in the middle of the store. In 6th grade, I started playing Guitar Hero 3. That was my intro into any music differing from hip hop. So I basically threw the entire track list onto my iPod and would walk around campus air guitaring. Or more like air guitar heroing, I guess. Anyway, one day in class my teacher asked the class if any of us played an instrument and the conversation went like this. Noob 21. Don't you play guitar? No, I actually play Guitar Hero. Basically the same thing. I do actually play guitar now, and this thought makes me cringe so much. I openly considered myself as a gigolo, and had the coolio hairstyle to match. I am a very pale ginger. Cold sweats and stifled vomit come with these memories. I know quite a few jugglers, and while most of them are actually cool guys, I will never understand their undying loyalty to Ike and psychopathic records. When I was in the first year of high school, I was in a show where we were divided into groups. In my group there was a girl who had recently become a mother. I remember that right before one of the shows, she was standing with her friends and being very negative about the show and said she wished she didn't have to do it. For some insane, idiotic reason I thought it would be hilarious to say, do the show or I'll kill your baby. She never spoke to me again. And I will never forget the way she and her friends looked at me. I cringe so hard every time I think about this. Please tell me you didn't laugh after saying that glorious line. When I was in middle school, 6th grade, these older kids were making fun of me. So I turned and yelled at them, I can't hear you, I have a potato in my ear, like I was the smartest freaking person on earth. They proceeded to continue making fun of me and my potato ear. When I was 12-13 I was homeschooled. My only real social interaction was at church, so I would get bored during the week and take the city bus down to the main transfer station around the time school was getting out, only to then take the bus back home with all the kids, pretending to be one of them. A lot of people took the city bus instead of the school bus depending on where they lived. I would wear my backpack and everything to try to blend in, probably with just random stuff in it. Anyway, at this particular time I was positive that the coolest possible clothing combination I had come up with was a pair of brown corduroy pants, airwalk skate shoes, this is about 1997, and a multicolored tie-dye t-shirt. I was positive that this outfit made me the crap and gave me the confidence to talk to anyone. I think I wore it pretty much every day. There was one particular girl that I had been checking out for several weeks and one day decided to work up the nerve to talk to her. Nearing her stop, I walked back a couple rows and sat one seat in front of her. Hey, are you in my English class I led with? I don't know. Who's your teacher? Oh, I hadn't planned for this appropriately. Quick, think of something. I just transferred. I can't even remember his name. Mr. Robertson? I don't know who that is, but I'm not in that class. Oh, okay. I think I've seen you around. Okay, gives me the cool story bro. Look, before that was a thing. It was her stop, so she got off. Now this is where it goes from fairly cringy to cringe factor 1 million. As she gets off the bus, I turn to a random kid I don't know who had been sitting in the row behind her, give him a knowing look and a thumbs up, and say mission accomplished. He just stares at me. I get up, go back to the front of the bus, silently patting myself on the back for my cool smooth interaction. I'm not even exaggerating that this has kept me awake occasionally for almost 2 full decades. In 3rd grade, my mother gave me 30 Valentine Day cards to write my classmates' names and attach a small candy. I instead wrote the name of my 3rd grade crush another class on all of the cards. All of them. I proceeded to leave them by his classroom door while he was at recess. Sure enough, that boy never talked to me again. I went to a Blue Jays game. I am from the States. When I was like 7. I thought the US hated Canada and started loudly booing the national anthem. My mom was not happy. But you're quarter Canadian, Barney. Last year on New Year's Eve I was at a big bar in New York with friends and I got kind of drunk and went outside for a cigarette at one point. I must have actually been outside for the countdown, because when I came back and I looked at my phone and it was like 12:02 and I asked my friend why there wasn't a countdown done by the DJ. I couldn't really hear what he said, so I went up to the DJ and asked to use the mic and I did a second countdown, in front of the entire bar, with hundreds of people. Starting at 30, and no one joined in. I love the starting at 30, awkward enough as is. I had a female family friend. We ended up going to the same school in the end and she was having a party that evening. We were across the room from each other in the canteen, in 2 separate lunch queues. There was a lot of shouting across from people trying to talk to their friends and I caught her calling to me and trying to say something. I keep shouting back, what cause it's so noisy? Me. I can't hear you but we can chat at the party yet? Room suddenly goes quiet. Her. FFS brick hizzy, you're not invited and I'm not even trying to talk to you. Turns out she was trying to talk to her friend behind me. Don't know why this makes me cringe every time I think back to it, but it's probably to do with how cool I felt at 11 being friends with one of the cool girls by default, who it turns out never really liked me anyway. This one gives me more second-hand embarrassment than most of the others on here for some reason. During my alcohol phase I went on Facebook to search for and pore over pictures of my crush. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that I had actually created an event with her name as the title. My stomach convulsed when I read this. In middle school we had this mean cooking teacher that everyone hated, until our last year of being there. She seemed to lighten up a lot. On our last day of school everyone was hugging her and saying goodbye in the front part of the school, and I decided why the heck not, she's pretty cool. So as she was walking up the walkway towards me and I put out my arms to hug her, well she walked right past me, and I hear laughter from behind me, and it's my crush and her friends dying of laughter. Still kills me to this day. Rip you. I once wrote a letter in 2nd grade to my best friend's elder sister that was in 4th grade. It was gushy and gooey and romantic. He passed it on and I sort of forgot about it until one day several weeks later when I asked him, oh by the way what did she say, and he responded she kind of just laughed. I still cringe when she brings it up and we're now in our 20s. You have a chance now. Turn the cringe into humor and put the charms on high. A while back our family friend's daughter committed suicide by hanging herself. My parents had invited them over a few years after the incident for dinner, and since there was a lot of people there, they divided the tables into a parents' tables and children's table. We were in our late teens early 20s and 2 of her siblings were at the table. Instead of a tablecloth, our table was covered with a paper table cover and there were a few crayons around so we could draw play games. I was bored after dinner and without thinking suggested we all play hangman. As soon as the words came out of my mouth I had realized what I'd done. I'll never forget the way everyone looked at me. I apologized profusely and sat in shame for the rest of the evening. Now I still break out in sweats every time I think about that. This one really gets me, because it's just so innocent and okay in like any other circumstance. It wasn't your fault. I feel your pain. Waited in line at a gas station bathroom. I went in and took a gigantic crap and clogged the toilet. I tried to plunge it, but nothing worked. So I walked out with about 3 guys staring at me waiting to go in. I quickly drove off, only to find out I left my phone in the bathroom. Had to turn around and ask for my phone while everyone just stared at me. Something similar happened to me too. Right before I had an interview, I went to use the restroom and clogged the toilet. I wasn't able to unclog the toilet and started to panic when the water kept rising. I quickly ran out and played it cool until my interview started. Someone was complaining about it in the middle of my interview and I had to act like nothing happened. When I was 17, I was texting my boyfriend and remember saying, "I can't wait for you to come over this weekend so we can have sex and eat crabs." I sent it to my stepdad. As a father of a 2-month-old girl, I'm not ready for this crap. I get a girl's number. I have known her for like a day or two. I walk 2 blocks and I send the longest love confession text message of my life. Well, at least now we know not to do that again. I once referred to a friend as having an electric personality at his funeral, 5 days after he had been electrocuted. The words kind of just hung in the air at the funeral home, swirling around the group of 8 or 9 of us that were reminiscing. One of the guys looked at me and winced. A girl rolled her eyes and turned her back toward me. I swear it was innocent, but I have never, before or since, so badly wanted to be swallowed by the floor. I once worked with a guy that gave the eulogy at his mother's funeral. He was doing so well too, right up until the end when he said, "And now if you'd all like to make your way past the carcass," he meant to say casket. My best friend used to stash all his pee in the arms of his couch, which he's in his basement with his PS1 and games, and one day his parents found it all. I am talking piles of pee mags, printed off nudes of Bulma from DBZ, hentai, all the random grade 8 pee you could collect. And what does he do? Blames it on me, saying he was holding it all for me and that he doesn't even like pee or know why I asks him for it. So the next day I come over and I head down to the basement where we hang out like every day, and he's down there with his mom. She takes me aside and gives me a huge talk about pornography and how it's okay for a growing boy to yada yada, and she's not going to tell my parents because I have it bad enough at home as it is. Divorced parents, which I think made it easier to assume it must have obviously been mine. Being a troubled kid and all that, and for some reason this story reminds me of my friend who would go jerk off in his mom's van. I guess for privacy. His mom's boyfriend texts him one day, "Give your dong a rest and come in for dinner." He'd been pulling his pud in his mom's van for months and thought no one knew what he was doing in there. Guess it's not as cringy now considering I was a kid when it first happened, but back in 1st grade we were writing a test or something and I had to go to the washroom badly, but the teacher refused to let me go until the tests were finished, so I pee all over my chair. There was a huge puddle all over the floor. The girl next to me asked me what was all over my seat and I said it must have been water. She dipped her fingers in it and licked it up and said, "Yep, it's just water." No one ended up finding out I pee myself, so that's always good. I'm waiting for the girl to post. A guy in 1st grade sitting next to me pee himself and told me it was just water. I proceeded to check by tasting it. It definitely was not water, but played it cool. My crush came to my house to do a high school project. It involved the internet, and while she sat next to me she tried to navigate to Google on my computer. Unfortunately, the address bar auto-filled and took her to my last Google search. Page 2 of results for her name. Every link had been clicked. We both just sat in silence. Page 2. UGHHHH. My co-worker and I were taking the stairs to get to my office to be healthy. He mentioned my skirt was on crooked, so I readjusted it as we stepped out, and a bunch of the bosses were there, staring at 2 people coming out of the emergency staircase all flushed and sweaty, and one of them readjusting her skirt. The raised eyebrows were bad enough. The smirk from this really pervy boss was the worst. I went to a surprise birthday party for a friend of mine that I had a crush on in middle school, and my mom dropped me off at her driveway, which was quite long. I walked into the house and everyone yelled surprise. They thought I was so embarrassed. I was a loner guy just trying to fit in. So everyone is upset at me and making fun of me, and in walks the birthday girl. So I messed up her surprise. Later on, there is some music playing and people are dancing together, and I finally get to dance with her, and literally mid-dance she runs off to talk to her friend and left me. That whole night sends cringes up my spine. I posted a Facebook status when I must have been 12/13 stating currently chewing gum and listening to Skrillex like a boss. This guy I had a crush on at the time commented, which was clear sarcasm, "Wow, that's so cool," and I totally took it as the truth, a sign he dug me. FML. Eating fun dip right now, not giving a fuck. When my lip would get stuck in my braces brackets after smiling. Oh, and my mom made me wear my headgear to Harry Potter 3. She said it will be dark. No one will notice. My mom made me wear my headgear. Didn't know what a headgear is. Jesus freaking Christ. Poor you. Oh, middle school. Tried to date basically every girl in my grade without the slightest realization of self-awareness or the fact that girls talk to each other. I thought I had a solid chance with every single one of them. Cringe. You are a legend. When I was 12, I was attending a friend's party. I had been telling some jokes and had a small group laughing along. Being young and inattentive and foolish, I started telling some amputee jokes. They were popular at the time. Being completely unaware of the fact that the young lady sitting directly to my left on the couch was missing her left arm from the elbow down. My fanfiction net account. Back when Warriors, Cats, and PJO was still popular among teens, I used to frequent a role-playing forum. My characters were the cringy crap, and looking back I question why I role-played talking cats and demigods. Due to me having over 10k posts on those places, I can't exactly go back to delete them, and mods deleting them would lower the total post count number, which I think might have reached 600-700k in the time I've been gone. I still talk to friends from the forum though. My fanfiction net account. That was all you really needed to say. I ran just like Naruto throughout high school, from switching class to class, during lunchtime, catching the bus, etc. I always thought I was cool. Sigh. There's always that one kid who runs around high school like a creature. I still remember the girl who did that at mine, and I graduated more than 10 years ago. Me and two friends of mine were speaking in a Facebook group chat about going to the gym later that evening. One of my friends was new to town and became friends due to a relationship he formed whilst living in a different country, and was only coming on a free trial to see if he'd join. He was giving it the big one about how he smashed the gym back in hometown, etc. In the middle of arranging times and crap, he sent a message to the chat. What gym machines are there? Then he sent how to use the machines convincingly. When questioned, he said he lied and has never been to a gym and thought he was typing on Google. As a young kid, I was obsessed with horses. I walked around everywhere bobbing my head to simulate wind blowing through my non-existent horse hair. I did this for like a year until my mom asked me what I was doing and then proceeded to tell me I looked like a pigeon. Being in 6th grade and completely lacking any social awareness, I thought it would be hilarious to walk up to a girl in the cafeteria and quote Napoleon Dynamite. You know that "do you drink 1% because you think you're fat?" Well, needless to say, I delivered the whole thing terribly and she did not get the reference. A couple of her friends later accosted me as apparently she was bulimic. I'm 22 now and I still cringe every time I think about it. At least you didn't call her a fat lard and tell her to come get her dinner. My friends and I used to watch a British comedy called The League of Gentlemen. There was a scene where a character said "you monkey man." For some stupid reason we coined the phrase and used it to wind each other up. One night we were in the pub watching the World Cup, football, and Ronaldinho came onto the screen and I shouted "you monkey man" in a packed pub. Obviously there were people of different races there. It was absolutely horrifying. It just came out without thinking. I'm not in the slightest bit racist. In middle school, I dated a guy I didn't really like for less than 24 hours. We went on a walk and while he was standing next to me I texted in my phone that I didn't want to date him anymore and that we should just be friends. I handed my phone to him to show the message and he cried. Dating has changed since I was a youngster. In middle school me and a friend edited with Miss Paint so you know it looked good. His MySpace profile picture so it looked like our other friend's scary drug dealing brother was hanging out and had his arm around my buddy. He immediately messaged us to take that gay crap down. In primary school around grade 3, age 9, my friends convinced me to go talk to this girl who I had the biggest crush on. I awkwardly went up to her and started talking to her and my dickhead mate came up and dacked me in front of her. Thankfully he didn't manage to pull down my undies as well, but being 9 years old this girl squealed and then avoided me for ages afterwards. Also the guy who dacked me, we're still best mates all these years later so he likes to remind me all the time. Butthole. Didn't know what dacked meant and assumed you meant decked, like he just ran up and sucker punched you. So my grandpa was in the hospital very sick with lung cancer and the whole family was gathered in the waiting room. Both sides of the family, enter me the kid. I was mercilessly jumping on my older sister because she said something mean to me, and then I stopped, turned to her and said, "Are you dead yet?" I got crap stares from every person in the room, even a few non-family members equals. I still cringe thinking back to it. During one of my class my phone rang and the teacher looked at me with anger. I pulled it out and instead of just cancelling the call and apologizing I checked who it was. My dad. And I said that he never calls like that so it must be something important. The teacher said she didn't care. At this moment the whole class was looking at me so I had to continue. I kept insisting that it was important, although I knew it wasn't, and proceeded to leave the classroom. The teacher said I wasn't allowed to leave so I just stopped my weird jog towards the doors and realized how badly I fricked up, apologized and sat down. The worst were the looks of my classmates. My dad wanted to know whether I wanted pizza for dinner. Oh, and there is also this one time where I was in elementary school sitting in the canteen with my friend. Out of nowhere I said I love you and a second later I realized what I just said so I awkwardly continued. That's what? Name of character from a kid show, said in the last episode. He didn't say anything. And it was a girl's show while I was little boy. In my defense she did say that in the show. My dad wanted to know whether I wanted pizza for dinner, so it was important after all. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.